Hi everyone, my name is Marlin Anderson. A lot of you may know me from Love Island a long time ago, but this is my story. I think it's important to tell my story because a lot of people presume or judge or think they know my life, and to where I have got to now, I want this to be able to help somebody. So I grew up in Sweden up to the age of 3 years old. I lost my dad when I was just under a year old, and I moved to England with my siblings and my mum. Growing up, I had quite a sad childhood. I was very lonely. Mum was emotionally unavailable. No one really played with me. I found myself playing on my own a lot and making up these imaginary games. And around 6, 7 years old, my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that is when my life pretty much changed because I'd go to sleep at night wondering if she'd be alive. I spent a lot of time at home on my own with my stepdad at the time. And that is when a lot of my attachment issues and fear and anxiety started to fill me up from when I was a kid. I then went to school just like a normal girl did. I was very introvert. I got picked on a lot. I got bullied badly in upper school. A lot of the girls I never got on with. I spent a lot of my time in the library. I was a very shy introvert girl. And when I started doing beauty pageants when I was 16 years old, I got picked on for that. Really, really nasty stuff from the girls in my school. And I remember my mum was like, can you go and do Miss Bedfordshire? I'll give you £500, just do it. And my mum was very pushy in terms of me wanting to find fame because she came from Sri Lanka, she came from nothing, right? It was her way of just finding herself through me, I guess. Anyway, I did Miss England. I won Miss Bedfordshire, did Miss England, did Miss Sweden, did Miss Great Britain. I made some really good rankings. Not that it matters at all now looking back. And this is where it fueled my eating disorders. I started to count my calories. I started to obsess about my appearance a lot. I restricted my intake of food. I over-exercised. And at the age of 16 up to 18, that's not a normal thing for your body. I was severely underweight. I flew for Virgin Atlantic when I was 18 years old. And I remember being really happy about that because I wanted to leave the kind of village that I knew and get away from things. And my mum had all clear for a good amount of time, and I felt it was right to do so. And so I did that. I flew and I traveled the world. I then came back because I was getting bullied on my flights as well. The crew were nasty to me. They picked on me a lot. I was the youngest there. They called them the Vegas girls. And it was honestly the most toxic environment I'd ever been in, Virgin Atlantic. I then became cabin crew for Thompson Airways. I did a 6-month summer contract and that was so much fun. But I actually applied to go and take me out at the age of 18, 19 years old I was. And I got it, and that was my first taste of fame. It didn't quite work out, and then I got the job for Emirates, and I flew to Dubai. Now, in Dubai, I was just the wild party type. I drank, and I drank, I partied, and I partied, and that seemed to have been a theme in my life. I just wanted to escape things, and I had a lot of sadness in me from my childhood growing up, not having my dad in my life, my mum not being there really emotionally present, and filling that void. Alcohol was the first thing that I'd ever turned to. My mum started to get ill again, so I flew back home from Dubai. I quit my job at Emirates, and there was a lot of stuff going on at home. I can't mention here, but I had to stay with my best friend at her house with her nan because I couldn't go back home. And yeah, the journey took me on to becoming my own makeup artist. I was really good at makeup. And then my whole life changed when I got a call for Love Island. And they said, hey, Marlin, are you still single? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I had some really shit toxic relationships. And oh, that was me. I was gone. I went on there carrying the weight of eating disorders, grief. I was actually sexually abused about a month prior to going into the villa, which I have spoken about in my book. And that was something that I held in when I was in the villa. No one knew about it. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I went in there and blocked everything out. My mum, I remember clearly, was like, Marlin, you must go in. Just forget it and let them win. And so I went in, and that little girl inside of me tried to prove something of herself. And I came out and my life had changed. It was completely different. But the things started to change when my mum got ill. A year after the show, I stopped earning money. Nothing came in. Everything was dry as fuck and things were sour. I felt depressed. I was sniffing cocaine every weekend. I was drinking. I was trying to escape my problems. The work runs out after shows like this, right? And you think, oh no, they've just like swallowed me up and spat me out and I'm a nothing anymore. What can I do? And I remember, okay, my mum's dying. I have no money. What the fuck do I do? I still live at home. I'm 25. And I hit a rock bottom. I was gone in the head. You couldn't have spoken to me normally. I wasn't here. I was a million miles away. And yeah, my mum died. I won't forget it. I was in the living room with her. We brought her home. She had stomach cancer, but she actually had breast cancer first. She had it twice, spread to her stomach. The doctors didn't catch up on it. And then she died quite quickly within a few months. And that is when I had a partial awakening. And then I questioned life and my whole existence. I still carried on partying because I didn't know what to do with myself. I became a carer. I started caring. I met my abusive boyfriend at the time, and my whole life changed even more. I went from losing my mum to being in an abusive relationship where the mother of his children made my life hell. It was the worst 2 years of my life. I've never known anything like it. I got bullied physically, mentally, emotionally. I was punished in that relationship, not just by him, but the people around him at the time as well. But they say that the most abusive people, they get you when you're vulnerable, right? Anyway, I fell pregnant with this child, Concy. I named her after my mum. And then she died after a month. She survived for a month and then she passed away. And I know it was because of the relationship I was in. I was beaten black and blue, emotionally, physically, pushed into wardrobes, spat on, called a whore. I had deodorant sprayed in my face. It was volatile. You couldn't write it. You couldn't write what I was going through then in such a short space. And then that was when I tried to kill myself. I didn't want to be here. I remember stacking up the cocodamol, thinking if my daughter dies, I'm going to take myself away because I have nothing to live for anymore. And she died. The worst had happened. I remember screaming in the hospital. No one was there. He wasn't there. In fact, he would come in and out of the hospital. He stayed with me and then went back to where he was from. Staff at the hospital saw that he'd bitten my mouth and things like that, and I'd cover up for him all the time. Decided to make a choice. I either kill myself properly in terms of just do it until it works, or I survive that and live my life as I meant to live it. And I decided to use my platform and then the things that I'd gone through to help other people. Doing so, I lost myself in all of that. I spoke about the things that I'd gone through coming from a place of wounding still, a lot of hurt and trauma. And I didn't know, but I was running on zero. I was battling a court case with him. He then got sentenced to jail. Everything was in the public eye. I hadn't navigated the grief from my mum, my daughter. I hadn't processed my eating disorders. I gained a lot of weight actually, and I was using that as a body positivity movement, which was great at the time, and I'm sure it helped people, but I was drinking, sniffing cocaine on the weekends. Nothing had changed. That vicious cycle of alcohol and cocaine were two best friends. They were my two best friends because the loneliness and that grief, that pain in my heart, that couldn't be filled with anything. They say, you know, that drugs addiction, it's that mother wound. You're filling up that gap with that oxytocin because that's what your mother would give you. And I had that. I had lack of that. I kept existing. COVID happened. I partied. I traveled, tried to find myself. And then soon after I met Zaya's dad, he was actually a good friend of mine for a few years and we got together. I had Zaya. She wasn't planned and she has been the saving grace of my entire life. She's now 3 years old. But that wasn't where the pain ended. At 2 months old, I had to co-parent with her dad, and that was the most abnormal thing for me. Not only was I carrying the pain of everything I'd gone through, I found myself being alone again. I found myself back to square one, but with my daughter. I didn't know how to be a mum. I didn't have my mum there. He'd left me. He moved away back to his mum's house. I felt like everyone always abandoned me. It was a volatile relationship with him as well. I can actually say, you know, it was emotionally abusive, maybe on both parts of this one, because I was carrying my trauma. He had his. I didn't deserve what I went through with him though. I can fully say that now, you know. Co-parenting has not been easy. I built a bond with my daughter like no other, but it got to the end of 2023 where I hit a rock bottom. Every time I had to hand over my daughter, I would be drinking and sniffing lines, going to parties and escaping myself because that's all I knew. That's all I knew how to soothe myself and regulate myself. And I hit burnout. I checked myself into rehab. It was this private place, really holistic, and I'll never forget it. The pain of leaving my daughter with her dad for 3 weeks. He's an amazing dad, by the way. It was the most guilt I'd ever felt in my life. And I did that and I came out a completely different person. Not by just going to rehab, but by sobering my mind for 3 weeks and getting to the root cause. I meditated for around 2 minutes and it opened up brain space for me to receive a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And that, my friends, is when fucking rebirth happened. Over the past 2 years, my life has fallen apart in the public eye, secretly behind closed doors, where my identity has shifted and I have learned to unlearn all of the wounding and beliefs that I have accrued through childhood. And it has transformed me into the most authentic version of myself. The process has been painful, the most pain, and I've had to put it together. But when things like your pineal gland start to open up, you feel this fire, this energy, this electric vibration in your body moving, and things coming through in meditation, not just premonitions or the astral traveling. I'm talking real deep insights, being shown what we truly are, and to navigate on this platform is mad. And I'm here now to tell you that I've come out the other side, and I'm here to help you all, because this awakening process is a scary fucking transformation. But if I didn't tell you my story, you wouldn't understand why that had happened to me. Usually it's the pain in us. We have to surrender to it, because we know that if we hold on to that, we'll only just keep going further and further into that hole. I hope that you enjoyed my story and you could take something from it. And I'm sending you lots of love.